Hello, my name is Jakub Kaprzewski and you're watching World Talks on TVP World, straight from European Economic Congress in Katowice, where defense sector is featured very prominently this year. And on the topic of defense, I am now joined by Jan Grabowski, who is the Vice President of the Polish Armaments Group, known also under Polish acronym PGZ. Hello, sir, and welcome to the studio.
Hello, great to be here.
There's a lot of stuff going on in Polish defense, so a lot of ground to cover. Let's start with the ongoing energy crisis. Well, not the energy crisis per se, but the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is being blocked right now, and effectively blocked, so to speak. We know that there is a shortage of many supplies that were flowing through the strait previously. We have problems with jet fuel, we have problems with diesel, we have problems with fertilizer, but there's also one more resource that the Gulf countries were providing for the global economy, which is aluminum. So my question would be, does PGZ see the lower amounts of aluminum? Is it impacting the company in any way? Is it impacting the defense sector in any way?
Well, as it has been pointed by you at the very beginning, the defense is prominently represented here in Katowice, as all the talks are about the defense. Even crisis with metal supplies is touched by the defense, or defense is touched by the metal supplies. Well, in Poland, luckily for us, we don't see the shortages for now. And when it comes to metal supplies, I can tell you that even today here in Katowice, we spoke this morning with Huta Częstochowa, so Częstochowa mill, the metal provider owned by the state of Poland.
This is a steel mill, not an aluminium smelter.
Yes, but when we think about providing defense, and PGZ provides defense, PGZ, as we say, PGZ, Polish Armaments Group, produces defense, we need metal. Aluminium, of course, is important. We need metal, heavy metal. And I'm not talking about the music, I'm talking about the real stuff. We have the armored vehicles, different types of armored vehicles, wheeled or on trucks. We need heavy armored metal for it. When we talk about ships, our frigates that we are building in our PGZ shipyard in the north of Poland, in Gdynia, we also need to have a very special steel to build the ships for the Polish Navy. So we talked about it with Huta Częstochowa board members, as we use the Polish mills, Huta Częstochowa here, to build the Ratownik ship. Ratownik ship, the rescue ship for the Polish Navy, which is an obligatory equipment for the Polish Navy to support the coming new age of submarines, which would be on the equipment of the Polish Navy.
So there is enough steel to build this rescue ship and also for submarines.
Exactly.
And you guys don't experience any aluminum shortages at all?
When it comes to submarines, they are built in Sweden, but as we import, in example, our armored metal from Sweden for different armored vehicles and also for the ships, we don't see the shortages for now in the defense business.
Okay. PGZ had a very good year, has a very good year behind it. The final financial results are not known, but the company already made some communications about it. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, defense is in the peak, I would say now. It's my 16th year in the defense business, and yes, you are right that we haven't seen the numbers like this, not only in Poland, but all over Europe and all over the world. Our official results for 2025 are still not been published, because we are waiting for all the corporate boards to accept the numbers, so they would be presented to the public. But we are supposed to be, as a group, 2.5 billion zlotys on plus. When it comes to the revenue, it's more than 20 billion zlotys. So it's a record year. We hope that 2026...
So 2.5 billion zlotys, that's around 600 million euros.
Yes, roughly, when it comes to today's exchange rate, yeah. We expect 2026 to be similar. Of course, we all can foresee the safe mechanism coming into Poland, so let's see how this will touch our yearly revenue and our income that is coming to the company, because we are all waiting for the SAFE mechanism to be implemented and for the new contracts to be signed.
Exactly. And what's going on with SAFE? And just for the sake of our viewers, SAFE is a, let's say, super cheap loan, well, cheaper than what the Polish government would get on the market, cheap loan for member states interested in developing their defense industry. It's basically bonds issued by European Commission and then transferring this cash to the member states. So what's going on this front? This was a huge topic in Poland, also a big political fight. Don't want to touch upon that, but what's going on with SAFE?
Well, SAFE is the first in the history joint project of European Union that touches defense so much. European Union has been created after the Second World War to be profitable from the peace that has been in Europe after the Second World War, and it was all about the economic development of the member states and economic exchange between the member states. Now,
Exactly.
as we can see, the actions of Russia, and not only, but in Europe especially, of course, made by Russia, the European Commission and European Union member states has decided to launch a program which is called SAFE Initiative, to provide, as you said, very, very cheap loan for the member states to buy defense. And I'm saying buy because it's to produce defense and buy defense. So to buy products from different European, which is very important, European producers, European manufacturers
Polish
of
Armaments
defense
Group
stuff.
is said to be the biggest beneficiary of this program in Poland.
Well, Poland, as a member state, would be the biggest beneficiary of SAFE mechanism, because
Exactly.
it's 43.7 billion euros, which will be transferred to Poland starting from May 2026 up to the end of 2030. And in this period of this few years, we would need to produce equipment based on the contract that would be signed between the member states and PGZ Group companies, but not only PGZ. We are also talking about the private sector when it comes to defense business. But yes, PGZ companies would be the biggest beneficiary.
There were some worries, I think, in the Polish media regarding whether Polish Armaments Group will be able just to consume all this cash, because it's going to be a massive, like a torrent of money flowing to the company. I've already seen CEOs saying that, yes, of course, we are absolutely able to consume all that cash. What's your take on that?
PGZ is ready to negotiate the contracts with the Armament Agency, because Armament Agency in Poland is responsible for negotiation and signing the contract when it comes to purchasing.
So this is a special agency within the Ministry of Defense.
Exactly. And they purchase the equipment that we produce, but not only us, different defense companies. We can be sure, I can assure you that PGZ Group companies, and PGZ is 23,000 people in more than 60 companies, which 30 of really produce equipment. We are ready to step in and to produce this equipment that would be needed by the Polish government and the Polish army. But of course, it would be done over the years. We are not ready today to produce hundreds of thousands of rounds of 155, but we are on our way. Last year, in 2025, for example, we have signed a cooperation agreement with a French company called Erenco, with whom we would create a JV here in Poland to produce 600,000 rounds of 155, but not only rounds, also propellant and stuff, which would be needed to fulfill the needs of the Polish army, but also for also the export markets.
Yes.
We have also signed a deal with BAE from the UK. Also, when it comes to the 155, we have signed contracts for the anti-aircraft, anti-missile defense with MBDA, which is also a European company. So we are signing these agreements to be ready to implement the SAFE mechanism. But when it comes to SAFE, when it comes to the spending out of SAFE, Prime Minister Tusk, together with other ministers, a few weeks ago, had a press conference where it has been announced that 40 billion zlotys, so around roughly 10 billion euros, would be spent on the anti-aircraft, anti-missile defense. Another 10 billion euros would be spent on the artillery systems, also ships for the Navy, would be financed from the SAFE mechanism. Different types, the rescue ship, the mine hunters, so Cormoran 2 project. So there's plenty of products and projects which would be financed from SAFE. So we are ready because not all the contracts that would be signed out and financed out of SAFE mechanisms would be new contracts. There would be also the refinancing, which would also help the state of Poland and the state budget to have the money, the resources to buy another equipment from other providers.
So you've mentioned a couple of partnerships Polish Armaments Group have signed over the past year. There was one actually that caught my attention with an Estonian company called Frankenburg Technologies. So it's for small missile, anti-drone missiles, right?
Yeah. Well, Frankenburg is a very good example of how the European defense industry has developed. When I started 16 years ago, most of the industry in our part of Europe was state-owned and it was created of big conglomerates of companies. Frankenburg is a very good example of an agile company created by few intelligent people and few investors, who has security of Europe in their hearts and in their minds. Frankenburg has showed us the Mark I, as they call it, Mark I missile, which is just as you said, is a small missile which can be responsible for being a countermeasure defense, anti-drone, to call it in a simple,
anti-drone
exactly, to call it into a simple language for our viewers. This is an equipment which we do not produce in Poland, not only in PGZ Group, but in any other company. And this is an equipment which Ukraine shows is needed when it comes to the new way of how the war theater looks like. So we have signed a cooperation deal with Frankenburg, and it was witnessed by the two defense ministers, Estonian defense minister and the Polish defense minister, has witnessed the ceremony of signing a few weeks ago here in Warsaw. We have also co-organized an Estonian-Polish defense industry forum based in Tallinn, and we want to push this idea also into the general staff, because we know that this kind of equipment is needed in the Polish army, and we are also ready to show the capabilities when it comes to production, because we are ready to produce this kind of a missile based on a license from Frankenburg for Poland, but also for export markets. We want to produce this to defend European soil.
I have a whole list of stuff we could discuss, but unfortunately we're running out of time. Jan Grabowski, Vice President of the Management Board, Polish Armaments Group, PGZ, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
And this was World Talks on DVP World. Stay tuned for more coverage from Katowice.